Hello and welcome back. My name is Joseph and I'll be your instructor in this video. In this video, we'll cover how to build an Express server with Node.js runtime. So guys, before we even start, I would like to ask a favor from you. Make sure to subscribe because I'll be creating more of these videos. So to get started, what we need to do is first make sure that Node.js runs on our machine. So here, if you go to Node.js web page, you'll see download Node.js here. So you'll click Node.js to install. We'll later use Express, which will be our framework, okay, which will be used to now to build our API. Good. For the editor that we are going to use in this project, we'll be using VS Code. So if you're not familiar with VS Code, you can just go to VS Code page and click the download for your operating system. Now, I have Node.js on my system and I also have VS Code already downloaded. So what I'll do, I'll just open a folder. Make sure to open a folder. Yes, let me save these changes. Make sure to open a folder. For this project, I have a folder that is called server. Now here is where now I'll create all my files that we need to use to get started. To get started, we need to first initialize our package.json, which will act as our file, which will contain all the packages that we have on our for the packages that are required for our Node.js project. So we need to initialize our package.json first. So we can do npm init-y, which will initialize our package.json file. So you can do npm init-y, or you can just run npm init. If it is your first time, you can just do npm init. Okay, so we see here we have our package name. Okay, so we can just click enter. We can, if you want a description, you can just write a description. We'll have our entry point. For now, by default, it's index.js file, but we'll change this file to be mjs because we'll be using EJS for this project. So test command, we don't need a test command. Git repository, we don't need any keywords. You can write your name as Arthur, we just keep that. For the license, you'll just keep it as ISC. And to mark this, to progress with this, you can just do, is this okay? You can just do enter like so. Good. So now we can go ahead and start our server. But to start our server, we need a file. We need a file which will mark, which will act as our entry point. Okay. So we need an index.mjs file. Now, if you're doing MJS, that means you can now go ahead and do something like import. Okay. If you're using JS, that means you do something like const package or something like require from package. Okay, which is not something that we are going to do. Okay? So for this project, we'll just use import. So make sure to mark this as .mjs file. Okay, let's have inside our script the commands that will be used to spin up our server. So here I'll have a script called start, which will be used now to start our server. So we can just do node index.mjs file like this. So when I run npm run start, it will look at that script and it will run that command. So we also need nodemon, which will be used now to detect changes inside our file and update it as necessary. Okay, so make sure to have these two script tags. To install nodemon, what you need to do is run this command npm install -d. We're installing it as a dependency nodemon. Okay, that will install nodemon. That will install nodemon on your machine. Okay, as a dependency. Now, if you check our package.json, it was updated here in dev dependencies. You can see nodemon and the version for nodemon. Okay, good. Now let's create now the code that will be used now to create our server. You can do this with Node.js. If you go to Node.js page, you can see here that we are presented with these steps that we can use to create our server. So if I go ahead and copy these commands, have it in there, then use the command that we just had in our script, npm run start, you'll see that here we are having a server that is running on localhost 3000. But doing this with Node.js alone is tedious. So that's why we are having Express, which simplifies everything that we do with Node.js. So what I'll do, I'll just stop this server from running. I'll do npm install Express, which will install Express framework inside our project. So let's wait for that to install. Now we can go ahead and create the script that will be used to spin up our Express server. So let's bring in Express from Express like so. We can do we can initialize Express. Just create a variable called app. Bring in Express. We must also have the port where Express will run. Okay? Then we should listen to that spot. How do we listen to this port? We do app.listen, then we pass in the port like so. The callback, make sure to close this. Then you can go ahead and do console.log. Server is running on port. Okay, so now when we do npm run dev, it will do nodemon index.mjs. So now we have a server that is running on port 8000. So this is how you can create your server with I was to say HTML, with JavaScript, with only how many lines of code? 1, 2, 3, only 4 lines of code. Okay, so it's so easy to do it. Let's create now our API routes. How do you route your API with Express? It's so easy. Let's listen to a get request method like so. Okay, so this is the path that when the user hits this path, we want to do something here. Okay, so we can say something like do something here. What I want to do right now is just to do a simple rest send hello world. Now when I open this route, I will see this text hello world. Let's see if this one is working. So I'll go to localhost 8000. If I check this, we see the text hello world. Not only do we have a get request method, we have so many request methods. One is app.delete, request, then we can do something like this is the delete request. Okay, but remember the browser only accepts get requests. You cannot do a delete request here. Okay, so we need something that will emulate the client. Something, imagine we have a form inside our HTML, and when the user hits this endpoint, we want to delete. Okay, something like that. Now to do that, since we don't have a form, we can use something like Postman. So if I open Postman, make sure you to download Postman. It's so easy. So you'll just type in Postman. You go to their web page, and here you will see all the steps that you need to get started with Postman. Okay, so here you can say you can choose your operating system. For me, it's Windows, so I have it here. You can see it. Okay, so after you're done with that, now we can start testing our routes. Let me add another request, app.post. We can use the post request for these. Close. We can do something again. Yeah. No, this one is not delete request. We can say post request. We can also have a put. The put is used when you want to update something. The post is used when you want to maybe do something like add something inside the database. That's when we use the put request. Oops, let me close this, guys. Great. And what again, get, delete, post, put. For now, you just need to know only these four. There's also patch, but for us, we'll just use put instead, okay? So now let's test this with Postman. We see if everything works. So let's make sure to change this so we don't have the conflict when we hit this endpoint. So we can just do update. Yeah, that looks okay to me. Let's go ahead and test these routes to see if they are working. So let me close this. So it will be HTTP API. We don't need API. We'll just say /delete. Make sure to change this method to be a delete request method. So when I send this request to my API, we see we have an error. Let me check the port. The port is 3000 here. It should be 8000. So when I send this request, we see that we get this text, which is something that we want, right? Let's say I want to have this as a post request. So I'll just come in here, change this to post. When I send this, we get a post request text displayed inside my client. We can also have, what else? Yeah, that is how you can do. We can also have a put. Good, we see a put request. That is just a way that you can create your API routes inside Express. But this is not the smartest way of doing this, okay? Because you'll find that your code will be very, very long and it will be confusing at times if you have too much code. So how do you arrange your code into something that will be easy to work with? So what I'll do, I'll create a routes folder, routes. Now this one will be used to, this folder will be used to hold all our routes, okay? So let me create a file here. I'll just call it index.mjs. So for this one, I'll bring in Express. Remember, we are not using const, we are using import from Express. Then from Express, I'll bring in something called the router. We can just do express.router. Then we need to export this router, export default router. There we go. Great. Now we can have all our routes here. So for this one, we'll just do bring in all our routes like this. Have it in there, here. We don't have any access to app. We are using the router now. So what we can do, we can just change app to be router. 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 Oops. Should be here. Router. Okay, like that. So we have all our routes inside one file. Then the next thing that we should do is now bring in this file inside index.js. So what we'll do, we'll just do import uh, router from routes index.js. Then we can do app.use slash router. Now this is how we can create middlewares inside Express using use. So when I hit this endpoint slash API, it will read from this file like this. Okay, so let's try this to see how it works. So when I hit my get request and do slash API, we have hello world, which is here. Okay, so when I hit slash API slash delete, I'll see delete request. So that is how you can create your routes inside a separate folder from your server entry file. Let's go ahead and see how we can have multiple routes inside your Express server. So let's say you are handling users, you are handling products, you can have the same for users. Okay, let's create the entry file for products. I'll copy this. You see, I have this in here. It's the same thing I had for index.mjs here. Okay, then for also users, I want the same. Okay, so we'll create a file, index.mjs, bring in there like so. So now we have products, index. We don't need this now. We don't need this. Actually, we can use these. We can do something like, let me see, we can bring in the routes first from, remember we are using this index.js file, which is inside routes, okay, here. So we need to read from these two routes, then pass them inside index.mjs. So the first thing that we'll do is import them. So we can say import user routes from dot slash users slash index.mjs. We also need the products route from dot slash products slash index.mjs. Then we can set up our router for the users. So we can say router dot use slash users user routes like so. Then let's also bring in the products routes. So to do that, we can just do router.use again slash products routes. Now when we switch to index.mjs file, it will be now slash API slash products. We are doing a delete for the products. Let's change this so that we can see easily that we are deleting from products. Let's say product delete request. Product delete request. So yeah, let's do that. So when I hit this send, cannot delete, let's see, API slash products. Okay, let's look at this where there might be a problem slash slash API slash products. Let's go to index here. Oops, not there, here. slash API slash products. We are reading from here, checks here. Oh, look, it should be slash API slash products slash delete. When I hit the send, we see product delete request. Okay, let's go ahead and create a folder called controllers. We need a way to separate our logic from our routes. Right now, as you can see what we are doing, we are having our logic inside our routes, okay, which is something that we don't want. So I'll create a folder here called controller. The controller will handle all my logic for products and users. So what I'll do, inside controller, I'll create a user folder. Then inside controller, I'll also create a folder called product. Then I'll go ahead and create the entry files for this. I'll just do index.mjs. Also users, I want to do index.mjs. Great. Now let's see how we can create now our controller. They're basically functions that we need to export inside our routes. So to do this, we can just do export. You can say export const, um, create something like create user, which will be a function. Normally this function will be async. Then we pass the request and the response, request. Then we can have like a try catch block. Normally you'll have a try catch block here. Let's just log the error for now. Error. Then we can have a log here also. This will handle the logic for creating the user. So for now, we'll just do user created. Oops, created like that. We need also another function that will be used to, let's say, delete the user. So you can just do user removed. Okay. We can also have another to update the user. Update user. We can say user updated. Updated. Now these functions will be used to handle this task. Delete the user will be used to removing, updating, and creating. Okay. Now, how do we clean up the? Actually, here, this should be inside user, not product. So inside product, what I'll do, I'll just rename this. So I'll do find and replace user with product. Great, like that. So now I have product created, create product. Yeah, this works fine. So now we see if in my controller we have the user logic and inside product we have the product logic. So what I'll do is bring in the two folders inside their specific routes folders. So now we don't have to do this anymore. We can just remove these routers since we are handling these inside controllers. So what I'll do, I'll say router dot get. Actually, we need a get? No. I'll do router dot post. Then I'll say slash create slash user. Then I'll do here. Sorry. Here do router router.route. Okay, then here is where we attach our request method and the file which it reads from. Remember, we had this function and the function which it reads from, not the file. So bring in create user, Actually, what I'll do, I'll bring this manually, import from dot slash dot slash controller slash, we are inside the product, so it will be like this, dot slash controller slash, we are doing user, so it should be user index.mjs. Good. So now here we'll do create user. Great. We bring that from that file, pass it in here. Then I want to also router dot route delete user. We also have updating user, so I'll change this to update slash user. This should be update user. Great. Oops, let's fix this. Okay, so I'm done with this. We don't need this. I can just reuse this inside my, okay, inside users, router.use. Nope. Users, okay. Users, great. Now here, we'll just replace this. Then here, we made a mistake. So we'll just do fh, find the user, replace with product. Great. Now, instead of reading from product, what we do, okay. We also need update product, delete product, that is, have it in here. Make sure this is correct. So dot slash controller slash product slash index.mjs. Great. Check if users is okay. Let's confirm if this is okay. We also need delete user imported here. So now our API user routes. So now this one will read slash users. If you check here, slash users slash create slash user. Okay. Okay, let's do this. Let's try with users slash API slash users slash user slash create. Okay, it's a post request. Cannot post to slash API slash user slash create. Let's double check this. Slash create slash user slash users. Okay. Okay, so this one should be create slash user. Then if I send this, we are getting an error. Let's double check where the error is. We were logging this. So we see we log successfully here. But instead of logging, let's do rest.send. So we can do console.log, replace with, nope, actually, we do not have to do this. And you don't have to do this, right? For me, I want to test everything with Postman, so I'll just use rest.send. Okay, then that is for the product. We also need to do the same for the user. rest.send, rest.send. Also have it in here as a rest.send. Great. So now let's try this again. Send this again. We see user created. Now let's try an update. Put. So now it will be update slash user. Okay, slash API slash users slash update. Let's check what's wrong with the update route for the user slash update slash user. So we have this as a delete request. So make sure you update yours to put. So now when we run this again, user updated. Let's try for delete. User removed. Great. Then that is working perfectly. So let's try for products. Okay, so let's try for products. So instead of slash users, it will be let's check. Great. So it will be slash product slash delete slash product. Slash. Okay, let's do this. We are repeating ourselves so much. Let's remove this slash. Okay, yes. So here let's do also remove this. So when we send this, we see we have a problem. Let me see what the problem is. Great. Inside my entry, it should be slash products. I'm having slash product. Great. Product removed. So now when I try and update, product updated. Let's change the request method. For updating a product, have this as put. So I expect everything now to be working as expected. Let's change this to be put, product updated. Great. We can also create, make sure this to be post. This should be working fine. Okay. Also, let's avoid repetition inside users. So you can just remove slash user. Okay guys, so that is how you can create API routes with Express and Node.js. Okay, I'm also preparing another tutorial where I can show you how you can now use a database to make your API work perfectly. So guys, if you like this tutorial, make sure to subscribe and also to like this video. See you in the next video. Bye bye.